Why should they be responsible for my debt?
It's a great question. Like climate, fiscal policy can be a question of intergenerational justice. And I know that my party's not known for worrying about deficits and the debt too much, but it's time for us to start getting into that business. Because what we've seen in Washington is that the party that talked a lot about the deficit when they were trying to kill off programs, when it came time for this corporate tax cut, turns out they don't care. There is $1 trillion deficit now, and created under a Republican administration, which means if my party doesn't start getting interested in deficits and debt, nobody will. And I view it the same way you do, as a generational question, because I think we may not have to wait for kids and grandkids to see when those fiscal time bombs start to go off.
Okay. Now, David, I know that you think that we're...
Hang on. The tingle down my thigh is subsiding. That was amazing. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Wow.
So you were really...
How is it possible that the youngest guy running is the adult in the room? Well, how is that possible? We're coming up on today, actually, the Japanese. We're coming up on, I think it's the 30th anniversary of the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. And, I'm an old lefty from way back, right? You know that, right? Roosevelt, Democrat, okay? And he went before the American people on television the day after the Koreans, the Japanese attacked us. And Franklin Roosevelt said yesterday, December 6th, a day that will live in infamy. And what did he say? He says, we're going to go to war with the Japanese. I have a plan, and I know how to pay for it. That was the genius of Teddy Roosevelt. He said, go back and watch Franklin Roosevelt's speech. Total focus. He says, we're going to fight the Nazis, the Japan. We're leaning in, because that's important to lean in, because we know our worth. And we're saying, you cannot attack us. And then he said to the American people, join me on this rendezvous with destiny, but you have a choice. You have a choice. I'm presenting to you in this speech a public option to fight the Nazis. You can choose to stay home and fight the Nazis in the private sector. And you know what? Because, and this is what you don't understand about Elizabeth Warren, what Roosevelt did is he presented the American people with a choice. They could choose the public option and fight with our army, or they can stay home and fight the Nazis, in the private sector by, no longer investing in Harriman Brothers and, Ford and Coca-Cola and IBM, the people who were doing business with the Nazis. You could, that's one way to fight the Nazis.
Right.
But when we saw how well the war was going, I know your father may be too young, but a lot of Americans opted in for the public option and said, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to go fight the Nazis. Right? I'm sorry?
2 years. Well, first there was Roosevelt said there's a public option, and then in no later than 2 years into my next term, I will present the second phase of the war option.
Yes. Is this Michael Brooks?
Yes. I'm helping you out.
I'm surprised you know something that happened before 1996. And do you know why? Let me ask you a question, because I don't always like your politics. I think you're a little brazen. Do you know why D-Day was so successful?
David, you're going to have to educate me.
Because Winston Churchill and Eisenhower, before they stormed the beaches, they told the boys, we have a plan to pay for this. We know how to pay for this. You don't send... our fathers, or your grandfather, when they stormed the beaches of Anzio, if they weren't certain that all this was going to be paid for. They didn't want to leave you, their grandchildren, with intergenerational debt that Mayor Pete. I mean, I got to say, you know, I love Bernie. I do. I'm an old lefty from way back, but I got to say.
An old lefty from way back.
I got to say. I got to say, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So.
It was wrong to lock up the parents of truants. She should have locked up the truants. I think you get them early into the system.
More time for them to get reformed.
More time to, I didn't hear what you said. What?
To get them reformed.
Sorry?
The earlier you get the kids into the system, the criminal justice system, the more time for them to get reformed.
I don't know about that. That seems kind of ambitious to me. Can we afford to lock them up and reform them? I mean, that sounds fiscally irresponsible. I mean, in principle, it would be nice if prison was more than being punitive and locking up people of color. In principle, I'm against that, but I don't know if we can reform these super predators.
David,
these 16-year-old kids who don't go to school. These people are dangerous.
David.
So I'm guessing you didn't like that tweet from Shuja Hader saying that someone should lock up Kamala's parents because she dropped out.
First of all, I just want to say that I love hearing the voice of somebody with an identity. I don't know who you are, but you have an identity, and I respect your struggle. And I want to appeal to that. And I'm for what you want. As long as you don't, I don't know who you are, but your struggle is my struggle, so long as you don't want to raise my taxes or unionize.
That's Jamie.
Yeah, that really means a lot to me.
Jamie, I want everything you want so long as it's not a union, or I'd like you to have a choice. You know, if you know, not to unionize, or make a livable wage. But your identity, I am thoroughly behind whatever your identity is.
David, Brandon Sutton's in studio.
Sir, if I might jump in here 1 second. I'm a black speaking real quick, so I also have an identity. I've been floating the idea that.
Well, let me just say. I am 100%. Malcolm and Martin. I read their speeches, and you know, the thing about Malcolm and Martin was that it wasn't digging up the past. They weren't divisive. They didn't say, "Oh, the white man did this to us." They were forward thinking, and they told all Americans to lean in and know your worth. Right? Am I right?
First, I want to I want to thank you for your allyship, and also, of course, you're correct. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. were famously uncritical of white people, but I again,
they said go slowly, and they talked to Martin. If you read Dr. King, and I call him Dr. King, and so I'd like you to pause there and just think about the fact that I called him Dr. King and the license that affords me now. Dr. King said we need to go slowly. If you read his speeches, and Malcolm, let's go slowly. Let's not rush things. Didn't he say that?
Multiple times. That was his most famous speech, the March on Washington for Equality and a Slow Incremental Change. They often leave that second part out. I'm sure you're well aware.
Yes, thank you. Can you tell me all your identities so I can play to them?
Well, I lie at the intersection.
So you say you're African American.
I'm African American. I am also of average height, 5'9", 5'11" in boots, Timbs.
Okay, I need more.
So
let's move on. I just need to know people's identity. That's the most important thing to me.
I was just going to ask.
Do you like? You know who I like? I like Tyler Perry. I'll tell you why. Tyler Perry. Do you like Tyler Perry? I think he gave the Democrats. Did you see the debates? They held the debates in Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, and that was a big tent thing to do, to hold the debates in that was the Democratic Party's Medea moment. Because Tyler Perry, that's a right to work state. And the Tyler Perry Studios are non-union, and they're being sanctioned by the Writers Guild and AFTRA because Tyler Perry believes in choice. Tyler Perry, he said, I could produce my movies in Hollywood and choose to pay my actors and writers a livable wage, but I believe in choice. I'm choosing to pay my employees starvation wages.
So I agree with.
That's what America is about, choice.
So I agree with 99% of what you just said, but I want to push back a little bit.
Thank you.
And I feel as though no, thank you.
Don't be aggressive with me. Are you being aggressive?
No.
What do you mean push back? What do you mean push back?
I'm going to take it a step further.
What do
actually,
you mean push back?
I'm going to take it a little bit step further. I think that they could have had Medea on the panel. I think that there was room on that moderator panel for Medea, for Tyler Perry himself, to be questioning the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stop silencing women of color's voices.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was very brave of the Democrats to have the debate in the Tyler Perry Studios, which speak volumes to the value of a right to work state. Because, and this is what I like about Joe Biden, that he knows the middle class was built by unions, and he loves unions, but he's not afraid to take contributions from people who destroy unions. Big tent. Big tent. Big tent. Hair? No hair. Brown teeth? White teeth.
So I'm sorry. I just want to see if we could summarize all of this. You're voting for Klobuchar?
Yes. Listen. I too have a father who's an alcoholic, and I don't know what her policy is, but when she talked about her father looking for grace and giving up drinking, I thought, I like this woman. I like her. I like her identity.
Well,
I like her
because
resonance.
I identified with her identity. She has a father who was an alcoholic, and that spoke to me.
well, David, this has been it's been very illuminating, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to think about.